comes in, we're plant-based doctors, so we do the diet, but it's so much more. On the first visit right away, we start talking about stress and lifestyle right out of the gate, because the people who heal are in a good mindset and are in a good place. And the people who don't, which I was one of those who didn't, the people who don't at the beginning are more worried about it, ruminating on the negative and why am I not achieving enough, right? I was trying to achieve. I wanted the results. I didn't want the journey. I wanted the results. I wanted to write my book on how I reversed my lupus and how healthy I am and how great life is and help other people, right? I already had that in my head. So now when I was doing it and I wasn't getting that, I was so upset. Like, what am I doing wrong? Everyone else is reversing their autoimmune disease. Why can't I? Like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Am I overeating? What am I doing here? And so I let myself be in a negative place because of that. And that held me back. So going to yoga, I started focusing on the yoga, and doing these mind body works. I started focusing on my gratitude, and I did coloring books, and I started drawing my own pictures and coloring them, and, putting out little artwork and silly little things that I was doing that became my focus instead of ruminating on the negatives.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete podcast. We are Jess and BJ, and when we set off in our Honda Fit back in 2016 with everything we owned packed in a few carry-on suitcases, our mission was to raise awareness that living a more vibrant life is within reach for all. And one of the things that we learned on that trip is that vibrancy comes in so many ways. For some, it was drinking their first green smoothie. For others, it was cleaning out an overcrowded linen closet or leaving a job that sucked their joy. And what I'm getting at is that it's not just one thing. It's never just one thing. A vibrant life is many things. It's everything. It's our mental nutrition and our physical nutrition. It's our environment, hobbies, habits, and happiness all together that create a lifestyle of health or dis-ease. And we're so excited to see so many doctors widening their scope and expanding their minds to the ever-evolving recipe for vibrant health. Dr. Christina Miller is our guest today, and she worked as an emergency room physician for a decade and served as the president of the Colorado chapter of the American College of Emergency Physicians. She advocated the care of emergency patients and doctors, and then was forced to turn that advocacy towards herself as she began to experience her own health concerns. Her path to reclaiming her own health led to her changing the way she practiced medicine. Dr. Chris now focuses exclusively on nutrition and lifestyle changes as a means to treat the root cause of disease, which to me means healing. We're so excited to be chatting with another member of the Plant-based Telehealth team of physicians and can't wait to dive in, because it seems to me that this doc leans heavily into mindset as a key factor in health. Dr. Christina Miller, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. I love being here. I'm so honored to be here with you today.
And you've been binging a little bit on the Yogi Triathlete podcast.
I have. I've been catching up. I've been going through episode after episode on my hikes around here. So it's been great.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And you're a triathlete.
I am. I was telling you guys, I haven't done an Ironman or half Ironman, but I've done 2 Olympic levels, and I was the second to last person out of the water, but I was still so proud of myself that I even did it at all. That was my first one.
Triathlons are epic. And I remember when we showed up to our first duathlon, I was like, all right, I'll try out this duathlon thing. And I realized there was such a obvious absence of me wanting to throw up or pass out. And I realized that swim is really what makes that sport so hardcore.
Yeah.
It really is. That's the biggest source of anxiety and fear.
Yeah. And I had heard that right when you get in the water, and all the triathletes out there will know this, right when you get in the water, you feel like your adrenaline goes crazy. So I was kind of anticipating that, but what I didn't know the level, people were swimming over me, and I was like, it was crazy, but I got through
it. Yeah, it's addicting, right? And then we get through it and we're like, oh my God, I survived. And we're so proud of ourselves. And then we're like,
I'm never doing one again.
Or I could do one and I could do it faster, and I could be better at this. And why did I let that person beat me in the chute? I don't know. That's not going to happen again. So it is pretty addicting. But you're back in New Hampshire now, right? You were in Colorado
actually,
for a while?
I was in New Hampshire for 1.5 years, and I just moved back to Colorado. So
nice.
I'm back in the valley near Aspen, where I've been for the past 15 years.
Oh, wonderful. So not ready yet to get out of the snow. You like the cold
Yeah,
weather?
no, I love it here. I came back for the friends, but I love the outdoor living too, all the activities we get to do. Everybody, life is based on outdoor activities. We meet friends, we go for a hike. We're not just sitting around. So it's a very active lifestyle here.
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, we're in Southern California, so same thing. We just don't have the snow, right? But everybody is out and about. And even like in 2020, when, things were all kind of getting shut down and stuff, like the locals here in the village were like, yeah, we're not doing that. Like we're going out and we're moving our bodies. And the
Right.
surfers were like, we are not staying out of the ocean. Like we're surfing. This is our health. And in the city
I mean,
kind
we
of,
were social distanced, but we were still outside.
yes. And the city kind of turned a blind eye and they were just like, you guys just don't do anything really stupid and we'll kind of just pretend none of this is happening, which was so fabulous. I felt like I was living in a utopia. Felt so blessed.
And now we know being outdoors was okay. So it was all right
Right.
anyway.
Yes. Oh my God. Outdoors is medicine. So speaking of medicine, I want to dive into your story because you started out in the emergency room and what got you into medicine? Let's back up the truck a little bit more because I don't know that story. What got you into medicine and take us through, your transformation as a doctor and your transformation of your health.
Yeah. So I always liked human anatomy, the human body, physiology. So that was an interest of mine. And so it sort of led me right into medicine. And I initially studied adult medicine, internal medicine, and I didn't really like it. Back in the day, when you're trained, you give people medications, you do labs, they get sicker and sicker over time. And so as a resident, I already felt like I was burning out in medicine. I was like, this is so depressing. This is the most depressing job I could ever imagine having. And so I switched careers after my internal medicine residency training to emergency medicine. And there people came in, they were sick, they were hurt, it was a trauma, there was something bad happening. It's the worst day of their lives, they're in the ER, and I could take care of them. And it was the greatest job in the world. I loved it. I loved being there, walking them through it. I loved that we could take care of critical patients. I loved taking care of sick people. And it was a fast-paced, fun job. It was the most honor because you take care of everyone in your community. You know everything going on. You know every paramedic, driver, and police officer, because you're part of your town. And so I was the doctor, and I loved my role. And I've been practicing for about 10 years, and I started having joint pains where my finger swelled up, the whole finger, and I couldn't bend it. And I was like, that's weird. I didn't hurt it. I didn't know what happened to it. That was it. It just started with that joint pain. And then it went away. So I ignored it, kept working. And then it was another finger, like a joint pain on the other hand. And I was like, oh, that's going to be autoimmune. Shoot, like what happened? What's wrong with me? And within a week, like all my fingers had swollen up and I couldn't really bend them. And so I was still working in the ER. And I remember I had a patient that was not breathing and I had to put a breathing tube in for him. And, you have the handle and you have the breathing tube and the patient's paralyzed in order to do this. And I couldn't bend my hands and I had adrenaline going. So I was like, I have to for this patient. And I did it and it went well, but I was so scared and my hands were so stiff and my legs started hurt. I was limping by the end of each shift. Like it was terrible. So I went to see the doctor and I came back positive for lupus antibodies, rheumatoid arthritis antibodies, like everything was positive. And I didn't even know this. I'm in my 30s. I thought I was healthy. I was newly married. I was living in Aspen, Colorado. Like I exercise every day of my life. Like I could not believe it. It just totally blindsided me. And as a physician, kind of didn't think it would happen to me. I was sort of in the invincible phase of my life. And so it really knocked me down. Like it just devastated me. And as a physician, I also know the bad things that can happen from these illnesses. And so I was really scared and I was crying. I was depressed and it just spiraled. It kept getting worse and worse and worse. And they put me on all these medications. This is 10 years ago now. So I was put on 6 medications at one point. To control my immune system. And it just kept getting worse. I was still working in the ER and every shift I had so much pain. My labs were getting worse. I was limping. I was hurting. And people were asking me, nurses were like, what's wrong? And did you hurt yourself running this weekend? And I was like, oh, I'm just a little sore. Like I didn't want to tell people. I didn't want to be the sick doctor. I didn't want to be labeled. And I was sort of ashamed of it. Like, how could I be sick? It was terrible. It was a terrible phase of my life. And so nobody told me about diet. I had no idea about any of these podcasts or I had, Forks Over Knives hadn't been created yet. I didn't know any of this. And so I was And I lived, in Colorado, and I had doctor friends, but I still didn't know any of this. So I started Googling what could I do for lupus, for autoimmune disease, and I learned about plant-based eating, and I saw other people doing it. And so I flew out to conferences, and I went to see every plant-based doctor you could imagine, from Dr. Furman to Dr. Esselstyn to Dr. McDougall. Like, I listened to every single one of them. I flew out there and, read all the books, the China study, everything I could get my hands on. And I just overhauled my diet, and I got a little bit better, but it didn't fully reverse. I'm not one of those people like, 3 months plant-based and my symptoms are gone and my antibodies are normal and I'm healthy now. Woohoo. It wasn't like that at all. In fact, I got worse for a long time. And that's sort of my journey. I knew this was the answer. I knew once I learned about plant-based eating, that was it. Like, the evidence is there. There was no question. It's the right thing to do. But it didn't work for me at the beginning. There were so many hurdles that I had to overcome and figure out the right way to eat to actually improve my immune system. So it's been quite a journey, but it's been 10 years. I'm still 100% plant-based. I've never gone back. And after many years, I finally figured it out to what worked for my body. And I'm so much better now. Oh my gosh. I don't need all those medications anymore. And I don't have any pains at all. I was on 90 milligrams of steroids, which is a horribly high dose. And I still had pain. And now I'm on no steroids and I have no pain. So it completely resolved, and I'm back to running and being active. Haven't done any more triathlons, but I am still very active. And so, it's been quite the journey.
It's quite the burden to carry. The only thing I can equate to it is like when I became a yoga teacher, and I just had all this pressure on myself that I could never ever let anybody know that I was like thinking a negative thought, right? Or having a bad day, or feeling like that depressive energy. Cause I was like, the person who trained us like warned us of this. He's like, you're going to go out there and you're going to have all this pressure that you need to be spiritual. And he's like, just be yourself. But you didn't become a doctor because you're not somebody that likes to, like you've got drive, right? You didn't do a triathlon. You didn't make it through that swim with people swimming over with you because you're a quitter. Like, you're somebody that goes, and that's how I am too. And I just wanted to be really good, but and so it's different, right? Because I was a yoga teacher, and I guess it's not different because it's all relative, right?
No, I totally relate with what you're saying.
But it's like shameful, and that must have been a really stressful thing for you to be carrying when that's like the last thing you need to be doing is increasing stress when you're dealing with autoimmune.
I feel like now there's a lot of doctors talking about their stories and how they've improved themselves, so it's kind of accepted. But back then, people were labeled, and I didn't want to be the lupus doctor or nurses to think about me, oh, poor Chris, or to be weak, or I didn't want that at all. And so I hid it I told my partners, the doctors in the group, I didn't tell anyone else. And I felt ashamed. I mean, I felt like I didn't want anyone to know I was weak or I wasn't as strong as I put out there. And so it was really hard. And even now, like, I talk about it, but sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be the lupus doctor. I want to be the triathlete doctor. Like, I don't want that label anymore. Like, I want a better label. So I still have that in me a little bit.
Yeah. And was there like did you have at all like a level of fear? Like, I mean, it worked out well when you were putting that breathing tube in, you got that in there, but as your symptoms, like it's getting worse and you're on all the steroids, did you carry a bit of fear? Like, oh my God, what if something happens and I'm not able to care for these patients? You're a patient advocate, you're loving your job, and then all of a sudden your skills are compromised.
I had a ton of fear. I never thought I would be a bad doctor, though. If I was ever in a position, I didn't think I could do it. I just thought I would. I never thought I wouldn't be able to do it. But I just thought I won't be able to do this job anymore. And I did. I finally quit in the ER. And I sobbed on that day. And it's my personal identity. I mean, imagine you can't ever do a triathlete again, or can't ever do yoga again. Like, that's who you guys are right now and who you're proud of, right? And I worked so hard. I'm proud that I'm an ER doctor. I still to this day am. And so when I had to quit that, my identity went with me, and I was so depressed. And so I've rebuilt myself as a plant-based doctor, but it's still not the high level that I wanted to be at. I still need to achieve something as a plant-based doctor to reach what I had before in the ER, if that makes sense. I'm still pushing.
Yeah. Are you still looking for that kind of that next thing, right? Like that next, Are you a little adrenaline junkie? You got a little adrenaline junkie in you. Maybe that could be your new title. I'm the
I know. Well,
adrenaline
they say in
junkie.
the ER you have to be an adrenaline junkie, right? Because your whole job is about adrenaline. You never know what's going to roll in the door, and you have to be ready for it every second. And then when I'm not working, I'm out there doing my events or pushing myself in some way. So I love it. But with plant-based now, I have a whole new role, which I'm loving, but I'm still finding that last little niche in it.
When you moved to the plant-based diet, were you like over exuberant about sharing that news of how, because you're doing all the research, so you're getting all the information to back what you're doing, but you get so excited. And so like, did you find yourself trying to convert everybody right away?
Oh my God, everybody, every single person. And people would roll into the ER having a heart attack. I'm like, what's your diet? What do you eat? Did you just have stress in your life? And I'm like, okay, when you get out of this cath lab and after they fix this, put a stent in you, we have to talk. Here's my card. I want you to call me. And oh my God, I talked every asthmatic who came in. I was like, do you know diet can affect, stop drinking milk and you're going to get, and I was just like, and we have like 1 minute or 2 minutes with our patients. And so I had to get the meds order the meds and get the vitals and we're getting things going. And I'm like, hey, we got to talk about diet. When we have a minute, I'm going to pop back in here and I want to know everything that you eat. And oh my God, I started a little clinic and I was sending people after the ER. I was discharging them and I was like, call me in my clinic. It's free. I mean, I just wanted to get them in. So I was like, I would have them come to it was just like a little 1-room place. And we would talk about diet for half an hour with them and oh my gosh. Yeah, and then the other doctors are like, what are you eating? Why do you, because I lost a little bit of weight. I'd been so bloated and swollen with all that prednisone. And so all that weight came right off. And so they're like, what are you doing? And so I was sharing with everyone. Yeah. I was getting talks at the hospital. I mean, it was out of control. I mean, it still is, but when I was in the ER, it was really out of control.
Well, when you connect with something, you want to scream it from the mountaintops. Like you just know that this is worthwhile. But I think what's even more powerful about your story is that you were failing at first. Like you were eating plants, but it wasn't completely curing you, but you stuck with it. Like that's powerful. You stuck with something that you truly believed in, even though the physical evidence wasn't showing. It wasn't showing up yet.
Yeah. See, I'm the endurance athlete. I'm not the sprinter. And that's true in my real life too. But, so, I sometimes struggle when I see the stories out there of people who reverse super quickly. And then I kind of get mad. Like, it's not like everyone is like that. Like, good for that person. And I'm glad they're sharing their story. That's awesome. But it's not like that for a lot of people. And so now I work with all these patients and they're like, why am I not better? It's been 2 months. And I'm like, no. It can take a little bit longer. We got to figure you out. You're starting this basic protocol, but you're going to be unique. We all have different food sensitivity. We have different gut microbiomes. We have different stressors. We have different reasons this is happening to us. And so when we get to the underlying cause, it's going to be a little bit different for each of us. And so the treatment, yes, we're all eating lots of plants and we're working on our stress and we're doing these other things, but it is a little bit different. And that's what, for me, I was talking to all these great guru doctors and they're like, oh, you have to eat this diet exactly. And so I did, and I got worse. And they're like, no, you can't be worse. Everyone gets better. I'm like, I feel terrible. I'm flaring. And so I learned on my own, and I have little steps to help people if they're inflamed or if it's not working. We make rapid tweaks so that they don't have to go through the long struggle I did. But yeah, my message is that we're all different, and it might take time, and that's okay as long as we're on the right pathway and we keep moving forward and we keep redirecting, right? As soon as we learn from it, if we're not better, we figure out why and we redirect so that we do make progress.
Yeah, because we're so unique, right? Like our histories and although we all, our bodies for the most part, arms and legs for the most part, everything kind of looks the same. Like we've got very unique patterns and history and personalities that need to be taken into consideration. Like I was saying in the intro, it's not one thing, it's like many things, it's everything.
So true.
When did you start to realize like, okay, the food is so big, but there's more too?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I was completely plant-based and, like I said, screaming it from the mountaintops. Even though I didn't get the results, I did lose weight. I was so excited about what was happening. And that was probably about 2 years. And then I was like, I'm not getting these results that everyone else is. And I would call the doctors. I did all these expensive appointments with them, and I flew out to more conferences and talked to them. And they're like, no, keep at it. And I was like, something's off. And so that's when I signed up to do a fellowship with Dr. Andrew Wild, because he does integrated medicine fellowship and based out of Arizona. And it's a lot of mind body work. And that's when I got into all the mind tricks, I call them. And so when I learned to meditate, and you do 3 months of certain types of meditating with monks or with a certain person or certain types of meditation, certain types of yoga. That's when I did all my yoga training, and I started learning the data about that, and I started noticing the benefits in that. And so I did a whole 2 years learning different mind body tricks, and really delving into it and working with people one-on-one and in groups. And that helped tremendously for me. So I started to realize my stress and my worry, being a doctor, knowing what was going bad, worrying, going over and over and over in my mind, how that was making it worse, and negative self-talk. If I wasn't getting results right away, I was doing it wrong and I was a failure. And so all of that was happening in me. And so I learned to turn that voice off, to turn it around, to start high-fiving myself and celebrating myself, like I did for so many of my little events. And so that helped tremendously. And I started making huge strides forward again after that.
What did you find? I'm curious about the yoga, like in your yoga teacher training and understanding the practice. What was a benefit that you received from it that was sort of unexpected? I know we'll get the body awareness.
Yeah. So I had read a study that 8 weeks of yoga twice a week reduced rheumatoid arthritis sufferers their joint pains by 50%. So I knew that data, and I was like, I had so much joint pain, even on a plant-based diet. I hurt a lot all the time. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to start yoga. I was doing everything. And so I already had the plant-based part down. So now I'm doing yoga. And so I did it 3 days a week. And I was in Aspen, Colorado. And so there's a little studio right here. And so I started going to that studio. And actually before that, I went to the Aspen Club, which I had a little office there. That's where I did my nutrition. And I went to those yoga, and I went to several different instructors, and I hated it. I'm like, I don't like yoga. I really don't like it. I was trying different types, and it was boring. I was watching my watch. I was uncomfortable. I didn't like it at all. I was like, I don't think this is for me. And so that ended. And then I heard about the studio, and I went to a free class. She was doing a demo, and I fell in love with her. Like literally, I fell in love with her. And so I started going regular. And then I did a 30-day, 30 yoga classes challenge. And I loved it. I could not get enough. And this is now probably, maybe 7 years ago. And I do yoga all the time. And I still do it with that same instructor. I do other classes too now. But so what it was about her, she's very much all about it's more than just yoga. So you guys know that, right? It's so much, she connects you with the mind, body, spirit, how, you're a goddess, but you're also a human being with 2 feet on the ground, and find your inner sparkle, and who are you really, and get the energy moving. It's just all these little words that she says that, and then it's hard. It's actually hard yoga. So it's really good workout too. And hard poses that I still can't get through all the poses. And my balance got better, and it just changed. I just love my yoga now. It's so important to me. So I do it at least 3 days every single week.
You're like an encyclopedia of, I mean, like I look at your journey, just what you've shared with us, and it's like, oh man, like, whew, that took a long time. And oh yeah. But can you see the worth in what you experienced in treating your patients? Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's the thing, like everyone comes in, we're plant-based doctors. So we do the diet, but it's so much more. On the first visit right away, we start talking about stress and lifestyle right out of the gate, because the people who heal are in a good mindset and are in a good place. And the people who don't, which I was one of those who didn't, the people who don't at the beginning are more worried about it and ruminating on the negative and why am I not achieving enough, right? I was trying to achieve. I wanted the results. I didn't want the journey. I wanted the results. I wanted to write my book on how I reversed my lupus and how healthy I am and how great life is and help other people, right? I already had that in my head. So now when I was doing it and I wasn't getting that, I was so upset. Like, what am I doing wrong? Everyone else is reversing their autoimmune disease. Why can't I? Like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Am I overeating? What am I doing here? And so I let myself be in a negative place because of that. And that held me back. So going to yoga, I started focusing on the yoga, and doing these mind body works. I started focusing on my gratitude, and I did coloring books, and I started drawing my own pictures and coloring them, and, putting out little artwork and silly little things that I was doing that became my focus instead of ruminating on the negatives. And I started focusing on the journey instead of the destination. And there's Coach Wooden. Are you familiar with who he is? Mm-hmm. He was the coach of UCLA basketball. And he has a saying that success is not the outcome, but it's knowing the satisfaction in knowing you gave your best. And I said, if that's success, I'm not sure I'm successful all the time because I'm more focused on the outcome and beating myself up than knowing I gave my best. So am I really eating 100% plant-based, lots of raw and juices and smooth stuff I'm supposed to be eating? If I am, then I should be proud of myself because I'm successful, regardless of my results, right? Am I doing my yoga regularly? I am. Am I meditating? Am I laughing? Am I connecting with others? All these things I know, working on my sleep, moving my body every day. Am I doing those things? I am. Then I'm very successful and I'm proud of myself. And I started focusing on that. And so I share that with my patients. And so if they're not giving it their best, then I can't help the outcome, and maybe they're not being successful, and they have to be honest with themselves. So we talk about these things, and we can work on one thing at a time. I worked on one thing at a time. So, so I share all that with people and work, helping them with the journey and finding ways to make it work for them. Like, this is what we know works. Now, how can we make it work for you? Or how can we get you there to that point? So, yes, I've learned a lot to share.
What do you see as one or two of the highest stressors in the lives of these patients you're working with? Like, what is at the root of stress? Maybe the top.
So once you're diagnosed with chronic illness, you have this weight on your shoulders. It's there all the time. Like, I used to love that line, you know what's wrong right now? And you say, nothing, absolutely nothing. Like, nothing's wrong. Like, I was such a happy person before. I was voted happy-go-lucky from high school. And like, I was always in a happy mindset. Once I had lupus, it was just always there. So I'd be out with friends and I still had lupus. Or I'd be working the ER, like on a good shift, and I still had lupus. And it was so depressing. Like, I didn't want that. I don't want that association. I don't want to be that person, but I am. And so I labeled, instead of thinking of me, Chris Miller, I'm an amazing person, I thought of me, Chris Miller, I have lupus. And it just ruined everything for me. And that was such a stressor. And I see that in my patients. I know that they're carrying that burden with them, right? And they want results, and they want to feel better, and they want their lives back. And so it's hard. It's hard. And then, we're working on these meal plans, and they can be pretty, I'm not going to say strict. Nothing is strict. They're focused, right? If you want results, you gotta push yourself for results, right? You're not going to win the triathlon if you just kind of half-ass it. You got to push yourself. And so it's the same thing. If you want results here, you got to really, it's got to be a focused diet plan and a focused lifestyle plan. And so it's a stressor. How do you do that focused plan if you have a full-time job and kids and a life? And now I just added another stressor that you got to eat only this food, and it's maybe not what you even like to eat. And so that's a stressor for people. Now I'm telling them they got to wake up earlier to meditate and do yoga and move their bodies for 30 minutes every day. Like, if they want to, and then they got to sleep more if they want to feel better. Like, that's stress. So, and I always say, I don't want working with me to be stressful. So we start in little increments. If that turns out to be stressful, for me, it was awesome. I overhauled my diet and, I just wanted to go for it, but it's not that way for a lot of people. And so it can't be stressful. It has to be an adventure. It has to be fun. It has to be exciting. It has to be challenging. And that's, in that mindset, we move forward with people. So, because there's a lot of stress that goes with this.
I don't think that, I think this, we talked about this twice now. Like, I think the stories of success, the instantaneous ones, it's not the norm. I think, like your story, like, that's not the norm. I think people resist. They're entrenched in their habits. Like, it's just so strong. Like, and now you're asking me to get up early to meditate and then to watch the food I eat. But you're really asking them to step up their game of ownership of their life, like take ownership of your life. Like you're there to guide them. You're not going to babysit them. You're going to guide them, and you have their best interests in mind. But yeah, I think it's important to take those baby steps a little bit every day over a long period of time is something we like to say. And it's not the sexy, it's not the sexy process, but it works.
So true.
It works,
It
right?
is. It's so true because it's a whole lifestyle change anyway. And this isn't like a, 21 day detox or something. This is it. This is a lifestyle change. And it's so mindset, because those who go into it with, this is going to be awesome. All right, I get to get my health back. I'm ready. Let's attack this. That mindset versus, oh my gosh, poor me. I'm not going to have anything to eat anymore. And now I got to get up early too. And I'm so busy, like you could see those two mindsets. One is going to strive more and one is in a bad mindset. So we got to first work on that mindset of that person, right? We got to do one little thing and celebrate that success. Like, woohoo, you added smoothies. That's awesome. And then make them feel good. So now they're in the place where they can go and, each step they're celebrating versus like, oh my God, this is terrible. And what has happened to me? And, my life sucks right now. And so we don't want that ever. So if anyone's out there listening and they're in that low mindset, we got to work on that right away, because we can get you out of that and get you to a place of celebrating victory and challenges and fun and like all of that. That's what healing's all about.
Yeah. And there's two different mindsets. One is empowered and powerful, and the other one is powerless and doesn't feel like you have any choice. And it's just like one more thing you have to do. And to move forward from a mindset that's like, like powerlessness, it's not going to, it's like, I haven't seen long lasting results.
And
really,
the other thing is, we're not victims. Like, this is just simple biology or physiology. And if people are like, well, why did this happen to me? Well, why not? We weren't eating well, or we lived stressful lives, or we're exposed to toxins. Like, there's a lot of reasons. And so now we're the lucky ones who get to figure it out and move forward and improve our health. So, not seeing us as victims, but taking, like you said, taking ownership and moving ourselves into a higher state.
Yeah.
Through yoga, which raises our energy level, right? That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, literally I think there's some science around there. Like, meditation actually will benefit our cells, right? Like, we can have positive changes and beneficial changes in our cellular structure.
And for the record, we really are energy beings. I have to put this in right now.
Yeah.
We do EKGs of people's hearts, and that's their energy. It picks up a rhythm tracing of their energy. So we are energy beings. We do EEGs, electroencephalograms of people's brains. That's the energy. We're picking up the energy of them. So we can detect the energy. So when we do these things, when we say get to a higher energy or vibrate at a higher energy, we really are energy beings. Like, there's real science that supports that. So anyway, when I'm in my yoga class and they say that, I take it very seriously, because I know that there's science behind that. It's not just talk in a yoga class. So.
No, it's not. And you are so ladies and gentlemen, you just heard a medical doctor talk about how we are vibrational beings. We're vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. And, that vibration can be high and it can be low. And we all know how those feel and the differences. And if it's low, sometimes we just need to feel that and be patient. But as long as we're guiding, watching those thoughts, guiding our thoughts, and kindness to ourselves in the process, kindness to you're not a loser because you feel crappy today, or that you feel crappy today and you felt crappy yesterday and the crappy the day before, but get out and move your body. Make a list of things you can do. That's like our big thing. If, it's so many years, 16, 18, I don't even know how many years as endurance athletes, like, we've been injured, right? And the first thing I do is make a list. What can I do?
Yeah.
I can meditate more. That's always the first one. Like, I can meditate more. I can meditate longer. I can swim, yoga, things like that. Yeah. Mindset is huge. But what I'd love for you to talk about a little bit in the physiology of it is or the science of it is okay, we talk about stress. Everyone knows stress isn't good, but what's happening? What's happening in the body when we've got stress? Because endurance athletes, they're swimming, they're biking, they're running, they're training for long trail runs, they're, working, paying mortgages, all this stuff. and their hobby is like a part-time or full-time job. And that in itself is stress. And then of course, life, if we're not paying attention how we're moving through it and how we're reacting or versus responding. So what's going on with stress? Why is it not good for us?
There's a lot of things happening with the stress response. So the stress response is designed for fight or flight, for emergency situations to save our lives, right? Something's going on. There's a fire. There's something attacking us. There's a car coming at us. Our stress impulse kicks in, and we get a faster heart rate, and it beats stronger. We're breathing faster. Our immune system is turned off because we don't need our immune system right now when we're running from a car that's about to hit us, right? So in that moment, you are prepared for that. And your GI tract is shut down because you're not digesting food in that moment. You're running from this thing that's attacking you. And so that's the stress response. And that's good in that immediate environment. But back in the day when people had a stress response, they were running from an animal or something that was attacking them. And they were, one, it was short term and it ended. And two, they were exercising off the increased energy that you get with stress. So your body makes more glucose immediately in a stress response. You have glucose in your blood so that you can run and run fast. Your heart's beating stronger. So you're going to run fast in that stress moment. So that's what it's for. But as you can imagine, we don't want to be living with chronic stress. Your body doesn't know the difference between a stressful thought. You're worried, what am I going to make for dinner? Oh my gosh, I have this deadline at work, and you're thinking about that. My in-laws are coming this weekend for Christmas. Oh my God, this is going to be terrible. That your body thinks, oh my God, we're running from something. And so it's shutting down your GI tract. It's turning off your immune system. It's your heart is beating stronger, faster, blood pressure is going up, right? So you're getting the stress response. And this is happening through thoughts from your head are going to the back. Your frontal cortex is sending it to the back, your pituitary gland and hypothalamus, and it's releasing over 100 hormones throughout your body, from your adrenals, from, different endocrine organs throughout your body. And you're releasing adrenaline, epinephrine, which is adrenaline, norepinephrine, all these different hormones throughout your body to cause your heart rate to go faster, your blood pressure to go up, to cause these things to happen. And the other thing is you're more sympathetic. So sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic causes is your fight or flight. So you are ready, prepared for danger to happen. And we're living in this fight or flight environment, whereas parasympathetic is rest and repair and restore. Your GI tract digests better. Your immune system, to heal an autoimmune disease, you have to be in parasympathetic environment. That's the healing area. And so when we're living in a stressful world, worried, which was me back in the day, all the time sympathetic. And then like, why is my plant-based diet not getting better? Why am I not getting better? Like, of course I'm not getting better. I wasn't in a rest and repair mode. So when we're really in that stressed out, and we can hear it, like when I listen to people's lungs, people are taking short, shallow breathing. They're not even taking those big, expansive. People who are really stressed out, and people don't even realize it. Like, and they're like, oh, how are you? I'm busy. They don't realize they're stressed. They just live, and that's just their chronic way of being. And so what we need to do is get them back up into parasympathetic, to turn off these stressful thoughts, to turn down all these hormones. And then our blood pressure starts to come down, our heart rate starts to slow down, and our gut turns back on. All these GI issues start to get better. The microbiome even gets out of balance during stress. This shows that the microbiome, which usually works in a synergistic way throughout the colon, that it becomes discombobulated, was the term it used in the study, with stressful thoughts. And so our thoughts are so powerful. And I always say, if our stress can cause our blood pressure to go up, which we know when people go to the doctor's office, their blood pressure is higher. If our mind can do that, our mind can also turn it off. That's the relaxation response. And there's studies that show that we are powerful beings and we can turn off that stress response. But that's where we have to work on, because I personally could not just turn it off. I read that data, but I did not have the tools within me to do it. I had to start going to yoga. I couldn't even meditate. I was so stressed out. And so I had to start coloring books, which became my meditation initially before I could do a meditation. I had to do, I did this yoga regularly, which made me focus, and I couldn't have these other thoughts, or I fell out of my poses. And so, I did the deep breathing and all those activities to focus myself, to put myself back in parasympathetic. And only then did I start to feel the differences of healing.
That's like, I'm just shocked that the digestion shuts down, but it makes so much sense if we relate it to athletes. moving into race week, they've got travel plans, family commitments, their digestion their nerves pick up, right? The stress comes up. Really, let's just say an athlete's undertrained or going into a big event that they aren't prepared for, and the stress keeps building up and building up. And they get to race day, and it's a normal state, you're saying, and their digestion would shut down, and they're trying to put fuel in their body to fuel for this event, but they're having cramps, they're having opportunities in the body. So it just makes so much sense that that the stress ball is really blocking their ability to perform to the level that they've trained at for months or years.
And the microbiome gets damaged, and you can actually get leaky gut from long endurance athletes. So we've seen that in people. So their gut starts to break down. So it heals with rest and repair. So if people take the time, and can decrease the stress, that heals. And you also know, like when you're in stress, when it shuts down, first thing it does is it tries to empty it out of you. Get any stool out right away. So it's empty, and then it shuts down. And you know that you have to go to the bathroom, right? You have to go to the bathroom right away. Everyone has to have a bowel movement when you're really anxious. And that's your gut shutting down right there, for the stress is kicking in. And you want to have that bowel movement. Your body's trying to void everything in it. So it's lighter, and you're ready for fight or flight, and you're going. Like that's the stress response too. So anytime I feel that, if I'm giving a talk, I'm really nervous, or if I'm doing an event, I just do little local races now, short things. But if I'm doing something, I get nervous for it. And I feel that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my stress. I'm like, I go to the bathroom, but I try to calm myself down. Like, I don't want that much stress in me. Like, I trying to calm it down, but obviously stress is good. Stress is important for us. So stress, it's not like all stress is bad at all. There's a stress response. This is healthy stress. And we all want to get to that point of healthy stress, not too much stress. And that's where we start to get sick and have problems. But it's interesting when we see it happen to our bodies. I'm like, oh, it's happening.
And just like you can't out-exercise yourself out of a bad diet, I don't think that you can eat super healthy stuff but not be attending to your stress. Because if you're not attending to your stress, how are you really absorbing the food if rest and digest is...
Right. And, like autoimmune diseases, chronic health, so much of it starts in the gut. It's always a gut thing. And so if you're not digesting your food well, you're not absorbing your nutrients well. I was juicing and doing smoothies and eating all raw and fasting. I did all of that, and I didn't get the results that I wanted. And until I started changing my mind, really learning to de-stress and let go, stop being so tightly strung, and I had to just let go of things. And it changed, but it was hard. That journey in itself is hard. Like for me, it was relatively easy to go plant-based. I switched my diet, and I worked with these doctors. They told me what to eat, and I ate it, and I kept tweaking it. I worked on it over time and have changed it, but that wasn't as hard as the not being stressed. Like it's, if someone says, don't be stressed. Well, that's impossible, and I'm stressed. So, yeah.
Yeah. I would say, I'm not sure if there's anything more difficult or simple, right? And simple doesn't mean easy, right, but anything more difficult or simple that I've experienced than letting go.
Right.
Like just lighten up my Kung Fu grip. Everything's good. Like I don't need to micromanage everything, but that process of letting go, that is just like one raw layer after another. And it's scary. It brings up fear, right? Because to not control things, to not grip onto life so much means more trust, means surrender. It means like, it's not all up to me. Well, is it going to get done? It's almost like that whole process leads to another whole process of letting go of thoughts about the letting go of the thoughts and the things that you're trying to control. So it's a process, right? It's a journey.
Yeah.
So, I know, back to that damn journey.
I know.
It's better off you just start embracing that today, because it is a journey and there is no finish line. And I want to talk a little bit about, you had mentioned like the leaky gut, and I've heard you describe it before and so can you just describe what that is and what happens? And Especially for athletes, we don't want no leaky gut on race day,
No, you definitely don't. So the gut is the inner lining of the gut is one cell layer thick. That's the endothelium. So just one cell layer separates your food that you eat from your body, the blood and the immune system. It all lies right underneath that one cell layer. And so that cell layer is joined by tight junctions. Each cell is joined real tightly together. But what can happen is, and then above that, there's a mucus layer that protects it. And above that are these microbiome, which we have this diverse microbiome. Hopefully many of the good fiber-rich, the bacteria that eat fiber, or we have the bad kind, if you're not eating a good diet, but you have this protective, so that's the layer of protection, and you're eating food and it's digesting and it's absorbing through the cells, not between the cells, but through the cells, the amino acids or the glucose or, the things like that. So it's not absorbing protein. It's not absorbing, which break into peptides. It's not absorbing that. It's absorbing amino acids one at a time when you eat this food. Well, what can happen is when you're stressed out, you don't eat fiber-rich foods. And remember, if you're not sleeping, even not sleeping less than 6 hours is considered a stressor. And that in stress itself, our thoughts can change our microbiome. So that starts to change. Then you get less of the mucin layer. Then the cell is no longer protected. Those cells are no longer protected. You're eating food. It's going through you, and it's very acidic environment in your stomach. As you can imagine, it's going through the intestines. This is harsh on this one cell layer thick, right? One cell layer here, think how much you rub your skin and you get abrasions and, you have problems with it. Your poor gut is one cell layer. And it's got to filter out, it's got to take up the nutrients and push out toxins and push out bacteria and push out viruses and push out all the bad stuff in our food. And it's a hard job on it. And so what can happen at this point when it's breaking down is those tight junctions can start to separate just a little bit. And then instead of proteins are broken down to peptides and then into amino acids. So those peptides can start absorbing across. They're bigger molecules than the little amino acids. They can go across. Well, right underneath that cell layer is your immune system. It's waiting there. And so it doesn't recognize a peptide. What is that big foreign molecule there? It's not an amino acid. I don't know what that is. Boom, it starts attacking it. And so you start to get inflammation and this is how autoimmune diseases are created. It starts attacking these peptides, which can mimic your own peptides. And then next thing you know, it's attacking your own body. And so you have an autoimmune disease. And so, or you can get joint pains, or you can get headaches or skin rashes or fatigue or whatever symptoms people get. And so it's from this leaky gut. The microbiome, which is supposed to be in the gut, can also leak across. And there's evidence of that in autoimmune people. They call it translocation, where they see the bacteria that's supposed to be in the gut and the part of the microbiome is now they found them in the kidney, in the spleen, in different organs and different parts of their body. It's a leaky gut, right? They call it endothelial hyperpermeability, where it's too permeable. It's not supposed to be that permeable. It's going across.
Oh my
and
gosh.
So you can actually measure too. I do blood work on people sometimes, and you can measure what's called zonulin. It's released from the tight junctions. And if it's high, that tells you it's released and that person has leaky gut. Usually we diagnose it clinically if they have the symptoms, but you can measure it now as well. So you can see evidence of that. But so what we do to heal that is good fiber-rich diet, work on our stress because that plays a role with it too. The microbiome improves, the mucin layer improves. A little bit of fasting, which I think we're going to talk about. And so in the time when you're not eating, if you eat like every 2 hours, you're constantly getting food going across. It's like imagine you have abrasion. Every 2 hours, it's like, it's never going to heal, right? But you let it rest for 12 hours, the abrasion will start to heal up a little bit. So in the period when you're not eating, that also helps it kind of start to heal. It repairs itself, just like every part of our body knows how to repair itself. If you cut yourself, it repairs. Our guts can repair too if we allow it. So when we don't eat and there's not constantly acid going through and food going through, the leaky gut can actually start to heal itself. And we pull out whatever triggers there are, whether it's stress, whether it's bad food choices, whatever it is, some toxin in the environment, whatever's causing our leaky gut, eating all the time or eating late at night, that in itself can cause leaky gut actually. And so when we start to take those toxins out, feed ourselves the good stuff, it heals up. It for sure heals up.
Why eating late at night? What's behind
Isn't that
that?
the weirdest thing?
Yeah.
So that has been my newest thing I just learned in the past year in my own journey to get healthier and healthier. So our bodies are circadian, right? And so we're meant to digest food during the daylight hours, daytime. And at night we're meant to sleep and repair. We repair when we're not eating. Energy goes to digesting pretty much all day long. And when we're not eating, energy can go into other things like repair. And so when we eat past, basically we're meant to eat till maybe 7, 8 p.m., something like that. And beyond that, you're around 10 o'clock, your melatonin kicks in. It starts to kick in a little bit earlier, let's say 8 o'clock. When your melatonin kicks in, it's suppressing your circadian clocks of your pancreas, of your liver, of your whole body. They all have these circadian clocks. And so you stop making as much insulin. You stop the peristalsis that goes on through your intestines to push the stool and everything, the food through you. That turns off at night. It's not even happening. So if you eat late at night, you eat a huge meal at 10 p.m., it's going to sit there till the morning. And then, you wake up in the morning, you have a bowel movement. You don't have it in the middle of the night because you're not peristalsing in the middle of the night. So you're not going to have it at night. And so if you eat meat, imagine if you were a meat eater and that meat is going to sit in you all night long. All those toxins are absorbed. Yeah, it's so bad for your body, but it's even bad if you're eating vegetables and plants. And we also know we're more insulin resistant at nighttime. So if you eat a bowl of oatmeal at 8 a.m., it's not going to spike your blood glucose. You eat that same bowl at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., you might get a spike of your blood glucose now because you're not as insulin sensitive anymore. You're not meant to be eating that late at night. So, and what I learned myself, I read all this data, I listened to all these studies, and I have some articles and some books on tape. I was really delving into the circadian rhythm. It was so interesting. Well, then I ate at night one night, and the next morning I woke up so achy. My joint pains were back. I haven't had joint pains in years. And I was like, oh. And so I didn't eat late at night again for a while. And then I tried it again. I ate late at night. And sure enough, if I eat too late, I wake up with joint pain. So now I have the advantage when I talk to my patients and anyone out there, if you're having joint pains, look at how late you're eating. It matters. It really matters.
And somebody who has maybe gut issues, like eating late at night, I can't imagine that would be a good thing.
I don't recommend it for anyone anymore, even if you don't yet have issues. I didn't have issues at one point in my life, and then all of a sudden I did. And if only I had eaten better before I had them, So if you don't have issues yet, you want to stay that way. So you want to eat well and eat clean and take good care of yourself, and then you'll never have issues. And so you don't have to worry about it. So it's important. It's an actually really important factor. I work on that with all my patients, not to eat late at night. And it's hard for some. So maybe they're used to, I have a lot of night shift workers because I work with ER people. I have a lot of ER people who see me. And so I understand they have to eat at night, but there's still tricks we can work on with them so that we keep their circadian rhythm healthy and their gut lining healthy and prevent them from getting these illnesses. But yeah, it's really important to try to get your food in earlier and do the best you can. And even if that means instead of eating at 10 p.m., you eat at 9 p.m., that's progress. We'll take it. An hour earlier, that's great. And then over time, when you're ready, maybe we can cut it down to 8:30 or 8 or, just slowly making progress. That's perfect.
What are some of those tricks? Like you said, there's some tricks like that, people who, are working ER or whatever, like some things that you can do to help with that regimen of eating so late at night.
Yeah. So night shift people, and my husband still works night shifts. We met in the ER. He still works night shifts. And so it's really important that they still eat within a circadian rhythm. So we eat within 8 hours. Our bodies are not meant to be eating all the time. That's all there is to it. And they're really not meant to digest at night. So when he goes into work, he tries to eat, normal during the day and then eat early to like say midnight. And that's it. Then nothing from 12 to 7, the rest of his shift, but water. If you're in a pinch and you need something, grab a piece of fruit, sure, grab a smoothie. Always. If you're in a pinch, if you have tough patients or whatever your job is and it's become stressful and you need a little something, no worries, just survive, get through that moment. But our goal in life is not to survive, but to thrive, right? And so as a thriver, our goal then is to eat within a little bit of a window. So Troy, my husband, he tries to finish eating by 12, maybe 1, depending on the night, and then nothing until the morning. And then he comes home, goes to sleep, and wakes up and eats a big meal again. And that's been shown actually in studies to be protective. So people don't get the same. Night shift workers are higher risk of getting diabetes, breast cancer, other cancers, heart disease. And I have a feeling a lot of this has to do with the circadian rhythm and being awake all night, and it messes your whole body up. And like melatonin suppresses helps decrease breast cancer. It's been shown to do that. And so if you're working all night, you're not getting the melatonin kicking in when it gets dark. And so you're going to be higher risk for breast cancer. And so eating with the circadian rhythm has helped decrease people from being as high risk of some of these illnesses. So that's one thing we work on with them.
Wow, it's really fascinating. And I feel like through this conversation, we've talked about intermittent fasting, but what do you recommend, like an 8-hour feeding window or 12-hour feeding window, or what are your takes on intermittent fasting?
First of all, I'm a huge fan of it. There's so much data behind it. And as someone who uses it myself, I completely notice the difference. I mean, it's night and day for me, but there's not exactly a right answer to that. So, and this is based on data and working with people, but at least 12 hours of not eating, I recommend to everyone. So at least 12 hours. So if you wake up, your first meal is at 7 a.m., you finish by 7 p.m., you eat again at 7 a.m. That in itself will give you benefits. So that is important. And if that's the best you can do, fabulous. I'm happy with that. That's great. You will probably do well in life. If you're looking to reverse or step it up, then if you can go to 13 hours of not eating or 10 hours, 10 hours I think is a good amount because it's pretty doable. Like you can eat breakfast at 9 and finish by 7 p.m., let's say 9 to 7. It's a 10-hour window. That's pretty doable. People can do that, or 8 to 6. You can finish, or 8:30 in the morning, you have breakfast, 6:30 you're done by. So you could do a 10-hour window that feels doable. And there's more benefits to 10-hour window than to a 12-hour window of eating.
Okay.
Then what about an 8-hour window? What about a 9-hour? It's like, it's not that clear cut, but if you do a 9-hour window or an 8-hour window, there are more benefits, but it can get harder. And I don't always recommend that for everyone long-term. I've seen people do 8-hour windows, and I've seen them, they were trying to reverse diabetes. So they were working with certain people and eating a little bit more fruit. They didn't get enough protein in, actually, as a plant-based eater. So that 8-hour window for that person, was not enough. We lengthened their window to a 10-hour. We made sure they got more beans in, more whole grains, that they got enough protein in. So we had to make some changes there. And so it's 8-hour window is good for a short time if you're trying to reverse something. I do recommend that for some people, but not for everyone. And if it becomes a stressor, sometimes the 8-hour window can become a stressor for people, then I also don't recommend it. And the other thing is there's studies that show there's more benefits to eating earlier in the day. It's actually good to eat breakfast. So when people are doing their 8-hour window, they're often skipping breakfast, eating lunch at 12 and then eat till 8 p.m. or eat at 11. But there's more benefits to eating breakfast, actually. So I want people to push their window a little earlier. So if they eat their first meal, let's say 8 or 9, then, it might be 9 or 10-hour day is what they end up doing. But I think the data supports that. So I also have them play with it. What works in their lifestyle, it can't be stressful for them, right? So what works in their lifestyle, and we watch how they're doing. Are they getting the right nutrients in? Are they thriving? Do they feel energetic? Do they have more energy? Are they running better? Are they, doing their events better, thinking clearer, losing weight? So anywhere between an 8 to 12-hour window for eating is where we play with, and we figure out what works for people.
All right. I'm hooking into 10 right now. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely hearing that message. What about one day a week moving to we were playing with a 24-hour fast, water fast, one day a week, just kind of, I think we stopped dinner on Sunday night around 5 or 6, and then we wouldn't eat until Monday night around 5 or 6 with what we found was limited exercise. You don't want to stress the body with exercise, but you can move the body, go for a hike in nature,
Absolutely.
Something like that. What are your thoughts on adding one of those?
Yeah. It's so good to not eat. Any periods where people are not eating is always going to be advantageous. Your body repairs and heals when you're not eating. So a 24-hour fast is good. It's short enough that most people can do it safely. You're not usually too starving in that time. So, it's doable, and it's fantastic. Your gut microbiome is going to heal. Your gut lining is going to heal. Your cells are going to get rid of extra waste and trash, and so many good things happen when you're not eating. So, and there's different ways to fast. So the intermittent fasting where you do 8 to 12 hours, that's just one way. Some people are doing every other day, one day a week. There's so many different ways. There's water fasting. You had Dr. Alan Goldhammer on here. There's so many different ways to fast that all of them have different benefits to it. So yeah, it's important to find what works for you. And the important thing is we shouldn't be eating all the time. Remember that we have pets. I don't feed my dog all day long, right? Why do I feed myself? I'm like, oh, I'll eat a few blueberries. Oh, I'll eat a few carrots. Oh, we need a snack. I have snacks everywhere in case I'm hungry. I have a snack. Well, I really don't need to be eating that much, right? My body's healing when I'm not eating, not when I'm eating. The more I'm eating, I'm probably worsening my inflammation, causing more joint pains. My leaky gut comes back. So it's really, I try to, reinforce that we feed ourselves like we feed our animals a couple times a day. And that's, big events, you guys are different. So, you're training for an event, you do need to eat more. You got to fuel a little bit differently. That's totally different. But in between those events or when you're not quite pushing it, it's good if you can take time to not eat in between that and let your body just heal itself and then get back at it. You'll be stronger and better. Mm-hmm.
I found that the place that it just makes so much sense to start fasting is a day that I'm flying. Cause I'm like, I'm just sitting there.
Yeah.
Right. There's really, whereas there's this mindset of like panic, like you got to have all this food on the flight. Right. And so I fast, I meditate on the plane. Yeah. And then I think like, I'm not doing anything. So I'm resting and my body's repairing itself as I'm in this like tin can with all these people and different, energies and all of that. And I've just found that to be so wonderful. And you kind of feel like, ugh, when you get off the plane. And I've noticed that I don't feel like that anymore when I'm fat. And then I'll just, if it gets in later, I'll just carry the fast through and I'll break it the next day with something.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And you said something really important because fasting is not just about not eating, but it's also not having stress. You don't want to fast when you're in a stressful time. So your body is repairing, but if you're having stressful thoughts or you're running around, you have a lot going on, that might not be the time to fast. So you want to fast in a time where you can take your meditation and have some quiet time and let your body do what it needs to do. Like when you go to somewhere like True North, where Dr. Goldhammer is, and you do an actual fast there, they teach you how to do nothing. There's a whole lecture on how to do nothing. Like they want you just doing nothing because you're repairing when you're doing nothing. When you're active and running around, your energy is going to go into that instead of repairing your cells. And if you're going to make the effort to fast, which that it does take effort, then you might as well get the full benefits and actually heal yourself. So that's great the way you do it.
Yeah.
And fitness doesn't happen when we're actually running, biking, swimming, doing the exercise. It happens when we're actually in rest and recovery. Then the body adapts. So
right. So it's the same concept.
Same thing. Yeah.
I love this amazing body that we get to live in. I mean, it's just so miraculous, isn't it?
It's so cool. I agree.
You're still learning. Like you're still learning. You just learned the whole thing about the circadian rhythms.
I just learned that part this past year and a half, probably.
That's amazing.
And it's been life changing. So now with my patients, they have just that many more tools, so many tools. It's not just about drinking your green smoothies anymore. Now there's so many more things that we can jumpstart them quickly to the healthier place.
I love it.
I love that you did all the research, but then you applied it to yourself. And I think that's really, really important to stress here. Like we're providing information, and that's great. Information's great, but really, apply it to yourself in your life and see what's working for you. You probably wouldn't have uncovered that circadian rhythm if you weren't like, what does it feel like for me? Like I need to take this on myself. Yeah.
So cool, right? I mean, you always think, well, what can I learn? When I don't feel well, I think, well, what can I learn from this? But I feel like I've learned enough, universe. So hopefully I'm done learning and now I can just help people share what I have learned. So hopefully no more badness happening, but it's true, right? And when they say like, it sucks to drink green juices all day long, I'm like, I know, it kind of sucks. Like, I agree. I don't even have anything to say except I know it does kind of suck sometimes. Because you can't go hiking. I can't go running. I live in Colorado. I want to go skiing on Saturday, but I can't because I'm juicing. It kind of sucks. So so when they say that, I have empathy with them. Like it does kind of suck, but the results are worth it in the end. So if we can just get through that day, have a quiet day and enjoy the quietness. And on the other side, it's going to be worth it. So.
Oh my God, totally 100%. I love it. I've really enjoyed this conversation. My God, it's flown. And, universe, lay off Dr. Chris. She's done enough. Let her help her patients thrive. Come on. The cosmic joke sometimes lingers a little long. But thank you so much for your time. Oh my gosh. I'm so just happy to be, you feel so good to me. I'm just so happy to be connected with you. And I've really enjoyed just the research I've done on you leading up to this conversation. And I hope we get to stay in touch.
Thank you so much, you guys. And I love this. I hope I can be part of your community and as a healthy triathlete person too, not just as someone else. So thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
and you're the healthy triathlete doctor.
Thank you. Ooh, I like that better. See?